Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's time for the Overwatch League Spring Stage Qualifiers on the eastern side of things. Week 3, Day 2. We got 2 banger matches. I'm Lemon Kiwi. That's leg day. We're not those people. We speak English, so welcome.
Welcome. What a bop that brought us in. That shot with a shy EMP expanding. Oh, absolutely beautiful. We're going to have some beautiful shots today as well, including a bunch of shots from our WDG Esports arena over in Seoul, because our first match today is going to be played on LAN, Lemon, with both the Dallas Fuel and the Seoul Dynasty making their residences in Seoul. Why not head into the studio in front of a packed-out, sold-out crowd in order to show their stuff? And honestly, both these teams have quite a bit to prove, so playing in front of the fans means a lot.
And I know we heard from some of the new interviews, which is cool that we got some insight. Through thanks, a shout out to our translators who have said, you know, that there's a lot of nerves on these players to be playing in an offline environment, something they're not used to. I'm seeing the little fans on the desk. Everyone's trying to get us comfortable and get that homey sense on the stage. And then there's audiences that have the signs up. It's been fun translating those. But yeah, a lot of pressure to be performing in front of your fans who are expecting you to do well.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of endemic organizational pressure, especially on the Dallas Fuel as well, who Hastro explained in the offseason that they did kind of negotiate with the players to move back over towards Korea in order for the players to be more at home during the season. And, like, it's not been the glorious run that Dallas had in the last 2 years, picking up their first win only yesterday against our bottom-ranked team in APAC at the moment in the Shanghai Dragons. But there's always time for it to pick up, including what could be the next patch, Lemon, but the next patch is the next patch. Those Junker Queen buffs, they are not reality yet, and they won't be reality for the foreseeable future. We're going to be playing the rest of Mid-Season Madness on the current patch, which personally I think is a godsend, because we've got a huge amount of compositional variety, which got shown off yesterday as well by our opposing team, the Seoul Dynasty, who brought in more Void and a little bit less Belos Rhea.
Yeah, I remember the last time you and I casted, it was the Piggy versus Belos Rhea match, which was so entertaining. Everyone go watch that VOD if you haven't seen it, where Piggy is writing MTD in the chat as the newest addition to that roster. And felt like Belos Rhea got a little boom, got subbed out at the end of that match, which it was an off-tank map anyway in that case, but obviously experimenting with bringing Void in for more than that. Void has been seeing not only playing the off-tanks, but also the rush ones, like Reinhardt, like Junker Queen. And you brought up Dallas Fuel and their Junker Queen. Such a meta-based team, right? Dallas Fuel have these highs and lows depending on which meta best suits them. They seem to not be able to kind of adapt to metas that aren't their strong suits, so a lot of the rush seems to favor them. But here's how the standings have shaped up. You mentioned Dallas Fuel got their first win. That makes them sit in 4th.
Yeah, they're in 4th, the lofty heights of 1 and 3 with -3 maps, because hey, they have been able to bring some fight in here. And Seoul Dynasty, it's almost surprising that they're 1 and 3. A couple of their losses haven't registered like as much as losses, but even their win was very tightly eked out against the Seoul Infernal in a 3-2 series, the first Seoul Bowl. And obviously, all of our teams will be qualifying over to our Overwatch League Spring Stage knockouts to go up against some of the contenders teams that qualified from our opens earlier on in our weeks of Overwatch League. However, up there at the top is the titan that everybody's talking about. Guangzhou Charge have had a barn burner year so far, not dropping a single map just yet. And I believe they are now the only team that has not dropped a map, as last night Atlanta Reign and Houston Outlaws went head-to-head. And while I won't spoil the match, I will say that it was not a 3-0. So both teams ended up dropping maps, and Guangzhou Charge, by the mercy of the schedule, if nothing else, are the last remaining team with a streak alive.
And you'll get to catch Guangzhou Charge in the second match to see if they can keep that streak alive against the Seoul Infernal, and we'll show you the schedule in a second. But bringing back up the Seoul Dynasty, production got my back. That's your schedule. Seoul Dynasty on a 3-match loss streak. Their only win was their very, very first match against their twin sister team, not really, but Seoul Infernal, which went all the way to a 5-er. And yeah, Seoul Dynasty pulled through, I believe, and that was their only win. But haven't seen a W since, and that's tough to see.
Yeah, including a loss to the Shanghai Dragons, which many people found beyond surprising, really. Shanghai Dragons they've had a high and many lows But the hive that they had was against the Seoul Dynasty and showed just how much potential that roster can have if they all come together. However, I do believe that Seoul Dynasty may well be able to outflex the Dallas Fuel a little bit as they roll out onto the stage here at our WDG Esports Arena. A look at our Dallas Fuel, which is 3 members of the championship roster in Sparkle, Edison, and Hanbin, but of course a brand new support line after Atlanta Reign purchased the previous one.
What are they gonna do for their rollout? Didn't Hanbin do some kind of punch, like a Doomfist punch last time? Edison dropping bars.
Oh,
okay, it's the Dragon Strike.
Yo, look at the coordination there. Triple
That's
kill.
You love to see it. I bet the fans love this. I mean, I remember the first time we casted this, you had the Reinhardt shatter and then the Doomfist punch. Like, it's a good time. This is why I miss offline events. The Seoul Dynasty coming out the gates. Packed house in the WDG Esports studio. Excited to see what team emote they're gonna do.
Oh, we're a little bit lost. Who's going around the central puck? Here we go. It's going to be Void taking center stage, and fellow Surrey, of course, going to be joining there as we take a bow, and I'm expecting big things here from the Seoul Dynasty. The main calling better be very solid for this rollout of, okay. Everyone move on in. Oh, it's going to be the classic, fighting.
Okay, I need more energy. I need more energy.
They do look slightly broken.
Vibes are off. I wish I knew players by names, but maybe it's better that I don't, because I'd be calling out some very depressed looking individuals in that. Huzzah! But match preview, avoiding defeat, and Void, I'm happy to report, will be starting. So we'll see how long he will last, or maybe will Belosria get some time in, but in the previous match, Void did get all the maps.
Yeah, Void has been able to flex between both the Diva and the Ramatra to great success. You can see here in our little screenshot, that's the pummel coming through. And the Shambali Monastery certainly was the successful map for Seoul Dynasty. And even though it is nice wordplay, I think avoiding defeat also kind of gives a clue into the agency Seoul Dynasty currently have, which is less, we're going to win this series, and more, we're not going to lose this series, right?
Yeah, right. But that 3-loss streak hurts, and you brought up that you lose to the Shanghai Dragons, who were the last place team at the time, and I definitely thought Dynasty had more in them.
Yeah, we really thought Dynasty would be able to bring PH to bear a little bit more alongside Profit, but PH thus far has not been amazing as a standout. Still, we haven't seen as much. Both these teams are actually suffering from similar woes, with Edison and PH both not liking the Sombra very much. They both very much prefer to play things like the Hanzo, like the Ashe, like the Widowmaker, and a lot of the time they're being shoehorned into these Sombra roles because Sombra is simply incredibly powerful at the moment and often can be too utilitarian to actually be left behind.
And we actually, speaking of the Sombra, we heard from an Edison interview that his preference is the Hanzo, and he's learning Sombra more and more. And Sparkle's assassin hero pool not working out as much, although his Tracer will be very important. He's tried the Genji, but it hasn't worked out. But you'll need all the hype you can get for this match. Take a look at the Dallas Fuel hype video.
All right, moving on back in there. I'm certainly feeling hyped up, Lemon, and we saw Edison hitting those beautiful double dinks. The Sojourn meta from a time long past is occasionally being harkened back to by their foes here of the Seoul Dynasty, where PH loves to pick up that Sojourn. And maybe Edison would like to try and catch into a 1v1 on that particular hero. Still, Hanzo yesterday was definitely where the bread was buttered. Edison started off slow yesterday, having to put a little bit more of a Sombra to begin with, but during map 2, Dallas Fuel, they let him loose on the Hanzo, and we saw the opening with the Dragon Strike. I think all the Dallas Fuel fans in the audience are hoping the same thing. Don't be meta slaves, boys. Simply stick with the Edison Hanzo and let that boy arch. Or bow. I don't know what the verb is.
Let him sling his bow, I guess. Also, the dash in esports? I'm going to have to fly to Korea. Someone's going to catch these hands. I'm just kidding. But I feel like there's similar weaknesses between these two teams of trying to catch up to the Sombra meta. We talked about Edison, we talked about PH, although I thought PH was quite competitive against Jimmy in the Guangzhou Charge match when it came to Widowmaker on Rialto. So keep an eye on PH, at least in the sniper hero pool, but it seems like Hanzo will be the bread and butter, or at least the fallback plan for someone like PH versus Edison. Now, the Tracer battle, Prophet versus Sparkle, that's an interesting one for me. I think Prophet still has to get back to his prime in terms of consistency.
Yeah, Prophet's consistency has been here and there. Yesterday, he did try and drag Dynasty kicking and screaming to a win on Esperanza, getting an opening pick onto Monk 2 fights in a row with the pulse bombs, but Prophet has definitely been here and there when it comes to his pulse bomb effectiveness, his attach rate. I believe yesterday, heading into the match, we had a stat card where it was about 14%, which you want to be getting like at least 25 out of your top tier tracers, doing a couple of finger exercises, keep that dexterity going. And now we're going to be able to look at, look over Seoul Dynasty fans. Ah, yes. How quickly, Unknown, can you translate 16 signs?
The Dynasty button's upside down. Oh, there we go. We got it fixed. Talented artist. Fan gallery live. Ooh, the Prophet jersey.
I think that's some Prophet fan art. We got Void next to him playing the Sigma. We haven't actually seen that much Sigma, surprisingly. Like, Sigma does have his niches on Circuit Royale and certainly defending like on Junkertown, yeah. And Junkertown's actually been an interestingly contentious map with a lot of teams picking up for Winston that's previously never been played. But I think Void would love to try and play a Sigma map here, and it would be a battle of the titans between Void and Hanbin on those off tanks. As we look at our starting five, and of course Krillin Lee Soo-min is a backline that is a little bit more predicated towards double flex support and bringing out the main support, but I think Krillin's also been doing a good job thus far on the Brigitte, which almost universally has become the best considered main support.
Yeah, they're very flexible between Brig Ana, Bap Kiriko, Brig Ana, Lucio Bap, Ana Kiriko, like all types of different stuff. Krillin Lee Soo-min, they get the job done. Even the crowd believes in them. There was actually a sign that said, Lee Soo-min, best flex support. And all those signs leg day, all for the Seoul Dynasty. So a big crowd favorite. But I know Edison said in the latest interview that, you know, they just promised the fans. The fan base is so important to the Dallas Fuel. They want to perform better for them, especially. It's a disappointing start, to say the least, for the Dallas Fuel. But we've always known that they've had these hot and cold moments in the season. But when the meta suits them, they are the best at it. So if this Junker Queen patch comes in later down the road, expect Dallas Fuel to be number one.
As we look at the Sombra stats in our Spring Qualifiers, Lemon, we alluded to earlier, both these players do play for Sombra, but do it with a little bit of begrudging acceptance that Sombra is indeed a powerful hero. They don't want to be playing for Sombra, but they're made to do so. And on control, for Sombra is incredibly necessary, as she's got some fairly good pace and can reset quite easily without having to die using the translocator. And it does mean that we likely will see it in our first match here. The Sombra is also increasingly good against the D.Va, which with Void in for our start, we're going to be expecting some D.Va here on Oasis, in particular on Gardens. On both City Center and University, though, there's a chance for the Ramatra to make an appearance.
I'm excited for that. Ramatra, we've seen it from Hanbin as well, although we say that Junker Queen is the Dallas Fuel bread and butter. Hanbin does like the Ramatra as well. We've seen it on Shambali. But I feel like the difference between Ramatra and Junker Queen is that Junker Queen brings more mobility and more of a team rush, while as Ramatra, you can split off to different angles if you need to. And maybe Ramatra can hold his own as an individual a bit better, having that shield, having the block. Junker Queen is kind of that go in and die type of rush. So it depends what style of rush you want to play.
She's just like me, for real, for real. Heading on into Map Lemon, and one of the things that's actually most interesting here about the potential for Junker Queen is that Junker Queen is most effectively countered in Dallas Fuel's previous games by going up against the Reinhardt lane, where you can kind of put the Cassidy and the Mei behind the Reinhardt shield and simply outpoke the Junker Queen before she can get a kill. However, with Void in, we wouldn't be expecting to see a Reinhardt, not really part of Void's hero pool, and Dallas Fuel may well have read this as we start to roll out. Void could be playing their own Junker Queen here, and this is courting fire to go Junker Queen versus Junker Queen against Hanbin, and this is, for Dallas Fuel, this is such a comfort.
And this is a different look for Seoul Dynasty. Last time we saw them on Oasis was in their very first match against the Infernal, where they played Belosria's Winston. And we talked about the assassin hero pool of Sparkle and how well we wished this worked out, but when you have rush comps that are so clumped up, it's hard for Sparkle to divine and to conquer. But he's clearly found these isolated targets. He's killed 3 and is already at 60% to Dragonblade.
I feel like we may well have scripted this match, Lionel. We also talked about how Edison, in that hype video, plenty of footage on the Sojourn. It would be his preferred hero to play, and they've been offered for 1v1. Seoul Dynasty here, they're going toe-to-toe with so much. MCD's actually moved over here onto a joke style with the Brigitte, so much AoE healing. But there's going to be less point healing here for Hanbin, who's going to be more relying on that adrenaline drain, using the bleeds and the wounds to stay sustained in these fights.
MCD is staying safe, either in the center pillar or at the very back. With the Lucio Brig, you just want to make sure you have Inspire up at all times. You don't take too many risks. You kind of have slow amounts of healing versus the Seoul Dynasty, who look to rush upon them. Dragonblade available to Sparkle, finds the moment, goes after the tank, but no one from Seoul Dynasty is really taking damage, so it's hard for Sparkle to get these executions. And I mean, I don't blame his hesitation when the Kitsune rush from Lee Soo-min came out, as finally Seoul Dynasty were dwindled down enough to find that first pick on the Prophet. Void drops, and Dallas Fuel take your second fight.
Yeah, Sparkle just decided, hey, I've got such an advantage here on Blade given our ult tracking. I'm just going to pull out the Blade a little bit earlier. Here's where something could really be decided, though, in the Rampage versus Rampage, though, because the mitigation for Seoul Dynasty is much better. Lee Soo-min can teleport to cleanse Antion himself, as well as use Suzu to cleanse it from other players, whereas when Void does it, Dallas Fuel have little recourse except the sound barrier.
Early rally from Dallas Fuel, stunning up Void. He's removed again, and good initiative from the Dallas Fuel to pop that rally early to extend past these doors. You don't usually see fights go beyond this point. And if Dallas Fuel do this again, even one more stagger, that's the round, and a flawless one at that.
Yeah, and Seoul Dynasty, they're going to be left holding onto a bunch of ults with no real use. The sound barrier still available here for Krillin. Do you want to use it to answer the overclock from Edison, or Hanbin's Rampage? More likely you want to use it for the overclock, save for Suzu instead.
Yeah, Prophet has to jump over to start the overtime, and they have to keep it going. Void presents himself, 3-man anti. And how does this happen? The Rampage from Hanbin, slowing the Seoul Dynasty pain train down, and you don't have Lee Soo-min. Limited heals. PH popping off, going up against Edison's similar stats, but shining bright when Seoul Dynasty needed it the most. Seoul Dynasty will fight their way back. It'll be a flip over in their favor, but a 0-100 comeback is a huge ask for the Seoul Dynasty.
Sparkle not brave enough to pull the Blade in a 1 versus 3. Not even for the Vine. Maybe next time.
Oh, that's dead.
It's dead. It's dead. Dallas Fuel, though, recapturing their identity here as the faster team. Being able to constantly move first, Seoul Dynasty, what they do bring to the table with this Kiriko is the ability to get more single-point heals onto targets that are in a lot of trouble. And that allows Void to be kept up a lot more easily in these fights when taking a lot of the pressure coming in from Dallas Fuel.
Oh, high ground control from Dallas Fuel. Good counter rotation from Seoul to the highway side. Sparkle has him right where he wants, and PH isolates himself, jumped to the wrong side. Seoul went towards the highway, and PH gets run over. Prophet responds with his own blade, the 2 kills to respawn, and the Seoul Dynasty's Kitsune rush just reinvigorates Prophet even more to stand tall against Sparkle on the hero that he's known for the best. Seoul, live on.
However, it was 2 ults from Seoul compared to the 1 from Dallas Fuel. If you're playing the long economic game here just to try and win the 99-99 fight, this is what Dallas Fuel were looking for. Edison, though, didn't get to poke out too much in that fight. Still building over towards the overclock. Control of the high ground here could be incredibly important. It would bring everyone together in a herd to allow Hanbin to get more damage out of that carnage if everyone's stuck together.
Yeah, Rally and Carnage coming up for Fuel. Soundbeer from Seoul to try and counter either one of those, or brawl through. Dallas Fuel pushing Seoul towards the highway side. And it's just posturing. Seoul benefiting from this because they'll bring this to a one-fight territory to go from a 0 to 100 comeback. Can the Seoul Dynasty do it? You got the rally first from MCD, stunning up PH, who finds themselves isolated again. You need the barrier from Krillin to keep him up. The rampage of Hanbin as Seoul summon themselves to help their DPS. The Duckling left behind. PH still dies, but you trade that onto Sparkle. 4 versus 4. Hanbin running out of resources. MCD flailing away the competition as Seoul have brought themselves to one-fight territory for the 0 to 100 comeback. It's a Kitsune rush. Winnable situation. Bliss pops the sound barrier, and now Dallas Fuel can roll this through. Rampage from Void only hits Bliss and Hanbin as you're still waiting for a finishing blow. And there's PH with the overclock against Edison, who doesn't have the support, the healing, except a mini pack, but wins it against PH once MCD is brought by his side. And Dallas Fuel, they scrounge up the competition, and Seoul falter.
Oh, a beautiful solid bait there by Edison, popping the overclock and moving away, allowing for MCD to roll in behind, get a kill onto those who would dare chase. Overtime ticks away, and Dallas Fuel, by the skin of their teeth, will be able to walk away with our first point here on Oasis Lemon. I thought it could have been over when both Void and Lee Soo-min were able to unleash their ultimates in the scrappy 99-99 overtime. Kitsune, Rush, and Rampage both hitting the floor, but unfortunately, they didn't wait out Bliss's sound barrier very well. I think Bliss had just used the sound barrier at the time the Rampage came through, and that allowed for plenty of survival. Here's a quick look at a PH highlight, who, while has been aiming well thus far, has shown a worrying tendency in our first round to isolate himself with his slides onto off angles.
Yeah, he likes to slide back main, which is not an incorrect call, but it's rather that he should go with the rest of the team, and whatever their call is the correct one. Like you said, Dallas are very good at identifying when PH is away. They do get a punish on the Sparkle. That fight really came down to the Kitsune rushes at the end. High ground control for Dallas Fuel on the Garden side. After denying the 0 to 100 comeback by the Seoul Dynasty, the Sparkle had troubles on this map before playing the Genji versus Cassidy players, versus Reinhardt Mei compositions, but this is a bit easier now against the Ramatra as Fuel get tired of waiting. They leave the doors. The point just got unlocked, and Bliss chunked down as Fuel. They're just playing cat and mouse. They're chasing Seoul Dynasty, who spaced themselves so well, poked the Fuel down, where they should have just focused on capping.
Sparkle will get 2 in the back, and you're exactly right, Lemon. Dallas Fuel, ill-considered taking that fight. They still had Void with the Ravenous Vortex, and we saw in our Bliss POV how it dragged multiple members back down to the ground. When you're trying to launch a dive as the Dallas Fuel composition, you are very much focused on being airborne and attacking from above. Now Hanbin picking up the Ramatra, not really a legacy pick of Hanbin in terms of how long it's been used, but it will try and shepherd Sparkle towards these squishy underbellies.
Oh boy, taking a lot of damage, and Hanbin can just respect that space, fall back to a safe position. He has a shield available too. Seoul going through main is tough. Just exposing yourself to so much poke, and Seoul are feeling it. They have the ranged DPS to make this work. Void and Hanbin having a brawl. Left and right hook. Sparkle going after PH, or at least the Coach Gun can create that space. You got the Amp Matrix from the Seoul Dynasty down main, really to just heal Void up. The Seoul Dynasty have really failed to kill anything, and if anything, they're giving Dallas Fuel so many ults.
Oh, here we go. And Matrix from the other side, double healing through the globules from MCD. Direct hits onto Edison, and here comes the engage from Lee Soo-min.
Oh, the Kitsune rush from Lee Soo-min, though. It's chunked down by the Sparkle Dragon Blade as Dallas Fuel have barely kept up the walls. And now 2 more ults thrown into the mix from the Seoul Dynasty. Annihilation and the Bob. If everyone's dead, PH just adds one to the equation. But Fuel, their remnants still live on, and they keep the point.
Great wrap there from Hanbin as well to make sure he can kill the Annihilation. Bores Void by just crossing his arms in front of Void, making sure that block is permanently put towards the Annihilation, so Void looks for greener pastures and an easier target. That allows Hanbin to weave in behind and hit those punches where they cannot be blocked by the enemy Ramatra, who's only got forward blocking capability in the Nemesis form. Now Hunbin's got his own annihilation to try and control the pace of the next fight, where Seoul Dynasty, they can't really demand a fight happen until they actually get themselves some poke, because they don't have a Lucio.
Different approach from Seoul Dynasty to go through the hallway. Annihilation from Hanbin, as Void tries to respect that, wishes he had a Lucio to guide him out of this. As Hanbin measures his space carefully, he's taking a lot of poke, drops back at 200 HP. Seoul Dynasty go forward, but again, without that speed, you can't really punish Hanbin as much as you would hope. Ooh. As Dallas Fuel, they get hit by some poke at a distance, headshot by PH, 4 versus 4. Dallas Fuel at 75%, one more fight to take game 1.
With the Amp Matrix fading away from MCD, this is an opening here for Krillin. Dare you try and give it to Profit, potentially, to give real value over to this overclock? It's Edison who strikes first.
Edison, overclock, finding the gaps in the building. Seoul Dynasty don't have a lot of healing with just Krillin. As Dallas Fuel, they barrier engage, they pulse Void, they go for more, 95%. And no one home to touch. The Dallas Fuel making a huge statement on Oasis as they take game number 1.
Speed, power, and aggression have always been the calling cards of a Dallas Fuel Lemon. Ever since they brought on Rush as the coach, it seems like the Rush ethos is go faster, go harder. And finally, we're seeing shades of that confidence, of that bravado, of that machismo from a Dallas Fuel, recalling their much more prestigious youth compared to what they've been doing more recently.
I wasn't a fan of just the composition. I think Seoul are trying to adapt and try different things. The Ashe Sojourn is not a common matchup. If they were going to play main, they went for ranged DPS, but then there was just nothing to help Void. There's no Lucio for him to win that duel against Hanbin, to really just brawl back and forth. Hanbin had all the freedom to chase Void down. The Bapkiri you saw, well, if you're going to incorporate a Baptiste over a Lucio, the Amplification Matrix just didn't have a big impact. So Dallas Fuel take game number 1. We'll see you guys on the other side of this break. Dallas Fuel are up in game 1 after a grueling first Oasis map. But Seoul Dynasty, man, if they lose to the Shanghai Dragons and the Dallas Fuel, they're going to be in the pits. But I don't want to call that too early.
It certainly would be in the pits, but when it comes to the fan support, they are riding high right now. We've had a look in our WDG Esports arena. There is plenty of support here for the Seoul Dynasty. I believe this is the Fuel section. I think that the crowd is actually split by fandom in terms of the seating allocations. I like that one on the bottom right. Oh, it's been covered up by Bliss Banner. Get that garbage out of here. I want to show Bliss off now.
I was also told in the WDG Esports studio that there's a fan section for Seoul, there's a fan section for Dallas Fuel. So if it looks like there's an aggregate of fans, yeah, they're in their sections.
I wonder if we're going to have our fighting cheers. They're so common here in Korea. Of course, we do have, I believe it's a somewhat prestigious position to be the cheerleader of those. Well-practiced Belos here, as you can see. Coming back in here for Void as we head over to Hybrid. The map is going to be Blizzard World, so we're likely going to be seeing a lean in towards Winston compositions here. And, of course, Prophet was part of the original duo that redefined what it meant to dive. Gesture Prophet, as Tracer and Winston, really did take the world by storm in Apex Season 4 as GC Busan, showing just what target focus could bring to a roster. And of course went on to win the first season of Overwatch League as well. The question is, will Prophet be able to get that same kind of synergy with Belos Ria?
Yeah, the last time we saw Seoul Dynasty on Blizzard World, it was against the Seoul Infernal. And that's with Belos Ria in the lineup. Where they had actually the Hammond on attack, and they experimented with the Winston on defense. A lot of Brig Zen poke on the attack, actually, with some Brig Ana on the defense. But what they continuously rely on is the Prophet Tracer and PH Hanzo, which, kind of like the Dallas Fuel, they stray away from the double flanker, at least until you get PH or Edison in a more improved state when it comes to Sombra.
Hey, you see that Fuel Pachamari there? That's crazy. Custom made. That's definitely something that I would like to get my hands on. Yeah, the Sombra is something that our teams don't really want to play. They don't want to. They've been very often forced to do so just because Sombra is incredibly oppressive and allows you to essentially stage a dive for free by only having to worry about your tank taking poke rather than the DPS that's going to take part in that due to, of course, the invisibility. Here's a look at our map set. Of course, we do have set maps rather than loser picks here in our qualifier stages. I believe as we go over to knockouts, probably going to be having loser picks instead. Shambali Monastery being our third map, is where Seoul Dynasty managed to come back yesterday. But immediately up is Blizzard World.
Yeah, and last time we saw Dallas Fuel on Blizzard World, they lost this to the Seoul Infernal as well. So both these teams have lost to the Infernal on this map. But Hanbin loves the Diva. Now, are we gonna be worried about Belos Ria locking either Winston or Hammond, which is Diva being the counter to those heroes? We'll see if that will come into play. Where Edison did experiment with the Sombra, the double flanker Diva dive from Dallas Fuel back when they faced against Seoul Infernal. See if it works out. Of course, the Ana Brig, the support lineup of choice for Dallas in that case, where a lot of Ana nanos go to Hanbin, as most Divas do receive. But you would favor Dallas Fuel if that's going to be the composition that is brought out.
I'll tell you what, though. The MCD Ana has actually been putting up numbers, Lemon. It's banger after banger for the MCD Ana, even if not so much of a playmaker when it comes to the names. Oh.
That second one was louder. I think that was the Dallas fans.
It was definitely louder. Whoever was second, they won. They very much won. No MCD Ana this time. Over instead onto the Zenyatta. This is a risky play with a Diva. Oh, and it's a risky play to actually start making these points, and we could have ourselves a pause, but it allows me to expand upon this. The overall healing output of a Zenyatta, obviously significantly lower with the Orb of Harmony only giving out 30 HPS, and it's usually going to be attached to a flanker instead. So generally, Hanbin's going to be relying for healing on good cover usage and occasionally picking up mega health packs as well when they start to get supremely low. So that's something that's definitely going to be a big factor that the audience need to keep their eye on. The Hunbin health bar and how it's managed. Because without a Sombra to effectively control health packs and make sure that they respawn often, Hunbin is going to have a bit of a survivability nightmare.
Yeah, Lifeweaver is now the new, just has that elevator for the new Sim TP for Widow, and that's the only time you're going to see it. But yeah, the Zen Break, all about poke, so, which tells me the Hanbin playstyle is going to be reactionary, just bullying Belos Rhea, playing as safe as possible, playing off of contact of Sparkle as well, just playing very far forward as Seoul Dynasty still managed to climb up to that top right side.
I've been doing some scouting, of course, with the defense metrics, get those pings in to allow Sparkle to know where is best to move. Prophet, not going to be in the best shape when it comes to these Tracer duels due to the double orb meta being discorded and then Sparkle having a Harmony.
Ooh. Oh, the crunch. As Seoul Dynasty went to the top, I think there was a disconnect between Prophet and Belos Rhea on which targets they wanted to access. And with the Discord orb of MCD, you don't have time to think. You're just going to be bursted down, and Seoul Dynasty really got to coordinate on this.
Yeah, if you want to see the power and precision of a team's calls, look for how many Zenyatta assists are going to come up in the kill feed next to whoever gets the final blows here. MCD seems to be very much corralling thus far on the targeting and doing very well, as Seoul Dynasty did have Belos Rhea, maybe overstepped the mark, not realizing just how much Zen was going to bring to bear. Remember, when Belos Rhea dives in, Hanbin can weave in behind and knock them further in.
That is not someone you want to meet in a dark alley, but Prophet has at least marked the break for now. Dallas Fuel, fall back, wait to see which side of the point Seoul Dynasty are going to attack. Sparkle may find his way. He's identified where Lee Su-min is. He has the pulse bomb and all blinks available, waits for his moment, and is maybe going to weaken that Krillin shield first. But Sparkle not taking too many risks, really just denying space, as in the back looms Prophet, has the pulse, took a body shot, dropped down to 20 HP. Meanwhile, Belos Rhea with the nano goes on forward. Hanbin loads him up with micro missiles as the red carpet laid down by the Dragon Strike of Dallas Fuel, who want to deny that second tick. So far, it's going well, although they could reestablish themselves a bit better, and I think Bliss will try to do so. The rally, the stun, now puts fear in the eyes of tanks or anyone who presents themselves to the Brigida, and no supports means no more fun for the Seoul Dynasty.
MCD now can just free farm through anyone who would present themselves. Seoul Dynasty unwilling to commit more than the nano boost after Belos Rhea couldn't get anything on the initial dive, and Prophet has actually been able to set up a Gaia camp back here from which to operate. A well-placed pulse bomb. Oh, hello. Suspicions are running high in the Dallas Fuel camp. They know that there is indeed an imposter among us. Hanbin, if they're able to eat that pulse bomb on entry, Prophet's going to feel themselves to be quite ineffective in the backlines.
But you don't want a Tracer to get all that attention either. That's maybe what Seoul Dynasty want. Dragon Strikes maybe force some members off the high ground. It does get at least one member from Dallas Fuel low. Belos Rhea jumps on it. But as Prophet goes to follow up, Dallas Fuel turn towards Prophet, which now forces him back. On the other side, Sparkle trying to chase down PH, who has dropped down to the low ground. Edison, low too. It's all about which team can get those executions. So many low targets in this fight, and Dallas Fuel only find themselves up by one member. They did give back one tick. Seoul Dynasty close to capping this, as Belos Rhea's Primal is sending everyone for a swim.
Now Belos Rhea, though, has to face the wrath of the supports with a Discord, or Hanbin's managed to isolate Lee Su-min. An attempt to move back and peel, but Hanbin's more than happy to take them both. 2 ticks, yes, again by the Seoul Dynasty, and Prophet still holding on to his pulse bomb, by the way. This is generational pulse bomb, Lemon.
It's just good marking from Dallas Fuel. Prophet hasn't had any chance to do much, even looming in the backline. Seoul Dynasty only get 74.2%. And I expected so much more after the near 100-0 comeback on Oasis City Center, to changes in compositions, the Ash Sojourn we saw in Oasis Gardens. Seoul Dynasty are trying to adapt, but it's been tough for Seoul Dynasty to finish off targets. These fights have been very close, but just not pulling through for Seoul.
If you will allow me a theory, and perhaps a copious dose of copium itself, there was a world there where Prophet was holding the pulse bomb kind of as like a Schrodinger's pulse bomb, just trying to make sure that Hanbin was always wondering about, hey, when do I eat this pulse on to make sure my team survives, to try and distract that Hanbin attention, allowing PH to have a little bit more freedom on the Hanzo and a few more openings to try and weave arrows in, and did manage to find some opening damage. However, when it came to the efficacy of that ultimate, it was Spark who actually let the ultimate run loose, picked off Krillin the second that he used his rally with a well-placed stick, and made sure that Seoul Dynasty could not convert that rally into any momentum on the point. And that rally would have been absolutely brutal, because Dallas Fuel can't stay in a long fight with no real source of huge healing like an Ana, a Baptiste, or even a Kiriko. Instead, Dallas Fuel were able to continually take these quick fights where the lack of healing didn't really come to bear.
I did like Seoul Dynasty's ideas. You know, you throw the Dragon Strike from PH, you got some members of Dallas Fuel low. There were some fights where Belosria and Prophet just couldn't converge on the same targets, and that's what costed them. It's not necessarily how they initiated the dive. I think they got towards the point in good fashion, you know, dive towards the top right, whatnot, but Dallas Fuel only have to cap the 74.2% to go to match point, and it's all about this poke. But having a Mei is suspicious. It's not very common on this map, which is how wide it is. As they head towards the top right, this will force Prophet back.
Okay, Dallas Fuel here decided, hey, we only need to take 2 ticks really on this point, so let's just try and make a brawl happen. PH and Prophet, they're going to have to try and counter-rotate this and find off angles, but Edison strikes first, and the crowd very much enjoys Steady Eddie.
Edison has won these important picks for Fuel. When you give him the space, Edison delivers. This is one of his best heroes, and he said about it, he's talked about it in interviews, and if Seoul Dynasty lose any fight, this will be a Dallas Fuel map. Even MCD's getting involved in the kills. 3 for the Baptiste player of the Dallas Fuel as they march on forward to get the last tick and go to match point.
Oh, Dallas Fuel only losing 3 players over the entirety of that map. Meanwhile, Seoul Dynasty 20 deaths, Lemon, continuously throwing themselves into a meat grinder, hoping to jam its gears with viscera, gore, and blood. But unfortunately, all it made was a very unsanitary sprinkler for the front row here in our WDG Stadium. And Seoul Dynasty, you said it after their attack. We expected so much more from this team. For the moment, though, Dallas Fuel are beginning to recapture the expectations and the prestige that was once afforded to them and has been somewhat squandered at the beginning of our 2023 season.
And this is the comeback of the Dallas Fuel that we've been talking about. Yes, it was their first win against the Shanghai Dragons. And one more map to take a win against the Seoul Dynasty. Dallas Fuel sitting in 4th to put them 2-3. But we'll see if that'll be the case. We'll go to break. We'll see if Seoul Dynasty still got a soul in them. Dallas Fuel on match point. Get those butts in those seats. Got one more to go, and the crowd is here for a good time. And Seoul Dynasty missing in action, both physically because they're not in their chairs, and also in the maps after a full hold on Blizzard World.
I mean, it's a little early in the season for Seoul Dynasty to boom, right? But we saw the walkout, and I think it's fair to say, Lemon, you and I were collectively disappointed in the Let's Go compared to Dallas Fuel, who came out ready to play, had their Dragon Strike charades very well organized, and honestly, if you can get your calling right for your walkout, your calling in game is going to be even easier. For Seoul Dynasty, though, the fans, they are having a wee bit of a pain right now, some suffering. That's a beautiful sign right there, and I think some Wrecking Ball fans in the audience as well.
I love the Dorito nose of the players. It's great. I want to go into the crowd and make art. I miss LAN events. I'm so glad we're casting APAC though, just to get that sense. Dallas Fuel, it's been a while since they've been on a stage, but it seems to be a comfortable position for them.
Also, good to see that the fan has come out here, because MCD certainly has had a hot hand thus far on both the Zenyatta, even the Brigitte, the Baptiste. Really been showing off a lot of variety in his hero picks, and honestly, there's only really been one scenario in this entire series, which was back on Gardens of Oasis, where MCD has felt that his hero pool has to change, or his hero and the setup for Dallas Fuel has to change because of what Seoul are bringing out. They brought out a more rush-heavy Ramatra comp to try and outplay this double sniper, which honestly, I'm yet to see any real success from, Lemon. If there's a a place that it's gonna work, though, it would be like holding second point Shambali Monastery, maybe, where you can try and take advantage of the high ground to try and use the snipers to weave in this early poke and make sure you can take down the enemy team before they actually reach your tank. Void is back in, so the Ramatra with a double sniper likely to come out.
I know one fan in the crowd had a sign that said, "Holding my breath till Bliss wins."
Won't be holding it for long.
Yeah, keep on breathing. But the vibes were already off for Seoul Dynasty. I could tell that we weren't sure about this W right off the team emote right at the beginning. But you bring Void back in. You looked good on Oasis. But how will you do on Shambali? Of course, Void has been brought in the last match to play those rush styles. And Shambali has been successful for these teams in the past. Dallas Fuel taking that against Shanghai Dragons most recently. So we'll see how the rush will duel out, because Oasis did favor the Dallas Fuel.
Enough goose eggs here in terms of the points gained for Seoul Dynasty to open up a little nest. Hopefully they'll be able to pick up something here on Shambali Monastery, because honestly I don't know how much more the Mentals can take, and that's going to be a big weight to put on Toby's shoulders, actually. You're often going to be looking to your back room to reinvigorate a team who are on a bad losing streak and try and make sure that they believe not only in themselves but in their teammates to be able to win. Because one of the first things that maybe falls apart when your team starts losing is your trust in your teammates, the camaraderie and the belief that this is a team that can win, and on paper, they should.
It's great to hear the fans. I know when I'm down 0-2, that's what I want to hear. Someone still believing in me. If it's not the back room, it's the crowd that'll get you hyped up. And Shambali was the only map that Dynasty took against the Hangzhou Spark, who are in that top 3. So this could be a strong one for the Seoul Dynasty to get one on the board to try and climb back in this series. But out the gate, Seoul Dynasty, they got the rush. Again, no Lucio. This was something we noted on Oasis City Center, which had set Void behind on the Hanbin tank duel. And wow, headshot from Sparkle. Lee Sumin gone. Krillin at 1 HP. Seoul Dynasty not get the start that they wanted.
So between the Ravenous Vortex, the continuous May Cryo Beam, and the Lucio Speed Boost, Void is not being set up for success here. Like, Void's ability to move around the map is significantly compromised compared to Hanbin, who doesn't have anything to really slow him down apart from Void's Ravenous Vortex, but can get out of that easily using the speed that Bliss is going to be able to give over.
At least Copa, Seoul Dynasty don't need the speed, I guess, because they're kind of stuck in spawn. But they got a Mei wall initially. Sparkle protecting his team there. Dallas Fuel expended some important cooldowns as the Seoul Dynasty might want to hone in on that exposed Mei player, as Void does try to do that, but is taking arrows to the chest by Edison. And now Void has to go back to spawn almost. He got an anti from Krillin to Bliss with love. Seoul Dynasty can't capitalize on this quite yet. And early Blizzard, the first ultimate from the Dallas Fuel. And Seoul Dynasty managed to dodge that even without the speed, as you just go back to the shelter of your spawn room doors. And Void gets to show himself off, and Fuel finally give up this spawn hold, but almost took away half the time bank of Seoul.
Yeah, almost half the time bank gone, and everyone else is just going to die on cart here. Bliss just tries to put a little bit of tilt onto Krillin, and now here's the combo of a Nano and Annihilation, which could be incredibly difficult for Dallas Fuel to deal with. But Dragon Strike may well be a good means of dealing with that, but of course, Void gets additional mobility while in Nemesis form. That additional movement speed will be good for trying to avoid any potential pitfalls that could generate. Elsewhere, though, when Void is going to be the main playmaker, you've got to worry about those squishier targets and how Sparkle can get on top of them now with access to the Genji, far more assassin-orientated, maybe to try and get on top of Krillin.
So many ults from Seoul Dynasty. They have the edge. This fight starts with the Dragon Strike. They trap Dallas Fuel in a fight. And with the speed of Bliss, it seems Dallas Fuel are unaffected. But the Nano to Void, the Annihilation. Step up, bro. Come at me. Dallas Fuel, they're forced to use the sound barrier just to keep Edison alive. But how did the Dallas Fuel fire back? Well, they do at so many different angles, and they pounce on the back line of the Seoul Dynasty. PH back on the Ash, just like Oasis, the coach gun, to separate himself from Sparkle. As Krillin took a lot of pressure too, which left Void out to dry. And Seoul Dynasty threw a bunch of ults. Didn't win it yet.
Good threat assessment from Dallas Fuel. We can't really kill the Nemesis form through the Nano, so instead we'll go for his squishier players in the back. Dragon Strike comes out first. Splits for Seoul Dynasty.
Yeah, just zone Seoul off the cart. We throw the Bob down, and Dallas Fuel can just play their corner, and both the Dragon Strike and the Bob not finding much value, just, well, obviously due to the positioning, counter positioning of the other team. Now Kitsune rush from Seoul Dynasty. Now they can take the space as Void is chasing a Lucio, and he's got skates and you don't, but Void still gets the kill at the end of the day. Blizz didn't know what was coming till it was too late. Seoul Dynasty with 25 seconds will be capping A. Sparkle wanting to die on the cart, maybe not, but at least resetting with the team.
Sit down, young grasshopper, says Prophet. You're not quite him just yet. Dallas Fuel, they want to try and get early control of this cave so that you can really control these off angles, especially with Edison. The Edison versus Prophet duel is one that we're going to be considerably interested in, given that Prophet spent most of his career over the last couple of years playing the flankers rather than these pseudo snipers.
4 HP in a dream. Prophet lives. Climbing up there to get a headshot, it's a tough demand for Prophet, but a win condition that Soul can depend on that doesn't involve an ultimate. But how does Soul climb up either this window to make sure Edison doesn't get free shots? Prophet delivers on that headshot. 5-4, but Void can't win the tank battle against Hanbin. Annihilation available. He's gonna pop it. The DPS of Soul exposed, but Hanbin playing his life well at the 150 HP mark. MCD has his back. Prophet makes sure he doesn't have a back anymore. And Seoul Dynasty still ain't getting much further.
We'll call that one a tactical reset, I guess, Prophet. I'm surprised that Krillin didn't do more to try and take down Hanbin in a crossfire that Hanbin kind of put himself into with low HP. Plenty could have been done, but was simply not to be here as Edison tries for some early poke. Getting an early headshot, of course, would waylay the Seoul Dynasty for a while. No Nano now available means Void is going to be looking for a significantly weaker Annihilation, but it can still be terrible to deal with on point.
Oh, the jump down from Fuel, the Sparkle Dragon Blade, oh, the Suzu from Lee Suman is well timed, the sleep from Krillin to save the day. The backline of Soul salvage this fight, and the DPS pull it off with headshots. Soul can move forward.
Oh, the Seoul Dynasty supporting crowd finally got themselves a couple of Senzu beans. They've been reinvigorated seeing that sleep from Krillin. It's not over yet. Will scream through their halls as Edison can try and waylay this with a Dragon Strike, but should be fairly easily navigable away from. Lee Soo-min almost has themselves a Kitsune Rush thus far, being a little bit understated in terms of the effectiveness of those ults, but it works beautifully in concert with an Annihilation.
Bliss is just escorting Sparkle around to see if he can catch Seoul Dynasty's off-anglers off guard. As now the DPS gone away, Lee Soo-min drops Kitsune Rush and exposed himself in a bad position, which got headshot by the Dallas Fuel, who are now not afraid to take duels. Bliss is like, I'm not interrupting this 1v1. I am going to help you get out of it, though. When Bliss, punished in that process, couldn't climb up. 10 seconds left for the Seoul Dynasty, who have the Bob. PH throws it forward and gets Maywalled off from Sparkle, so the Bob gets little to no value. Seoul Dynasty have Edison AFK, and they're still somehow winning this fight. The Seoul Dynasty have Void Nano. Krillin gives us life for it. Void has the tank diff, or Seoul Dynasty's road could end early. He does a good job of escorting the car to the end. Dallas Fuel are going to try to contest. No touch. Seoul Dynasty can't be.
When one hero stands alone, the Prodigal Knight makes it happen. A world champion, a world beater, a world eater on Ramatra. And the Void consumes Dallas Fuel as Edison's Gambit to try and play from the back only grabs a 1. But no more than that. The Nemesis form beats him to a pulp. And Dallas Fuel now will have to make their Helm's Deep hold here at the end of Shambali Monastery. But already for Seoul Dynasty, this has been a good push.
Yeah. You got the ranged DPS of Seoul taking these crazy off angles behind as Sparkle has used Ice Block. Bliss gives his life, it looks like for Sparkle. And Profit! 1v2 gets it done. Seoul Dynasty, 41 seconds. This is the momentum push you needed. You don't have a tank, but PH and Profit have worked so well to pull through on fights, and PH does it with a headshot onto Edison. As Fuel don't want to stagger themselves anymore. That'll give Seoul Dynasty a halfway push to C.
Exiting this spawn, gonna be perilous against a Dragon Strike from Prophet if he can manage to find a good angle for it. Edison's still holding on to their own. An attempt to try and even the odds, yes, but Bob's gonna be coming onto a point as well. The 6th man, Edison desperately wants a headshot, but no one's gonna be peeking out their cranium just now.
Dragon Strike through the left lane to isolate Dallas Fuel. Sparkle, ice blocks early to not die to Profit. Seoul Dynasty gets separated from the Dragon Strike of Edison on the other side. A Blizzard from Sparkle right in the back too. Seoul Dynasty are split. And Seoul Dynasty so close to capping it at the end. PH and Profit are snipers you have to fear, as Seoul Dynasty will full cap Shambali.
And it feels like for the first time, Lowen, in a long time, I can look over at my stats page and see Profit and PH in the lead. Huge amounts of damage coming out of this Ashe. 8.2k. Sparkle and Edison, 4k and 5.5 respectively. Simply unable to keep up with what the Ashe is bringing to the table. Against the Ramatra, the Ashe poke is so strong. He's got such a big head hitbox, and you know that PH is continuously exploiting that, while Profit himself is looking for these picks onto the backline. We're seeing this duo of Lee Soo-min and Profit take these off angles, because Lee Soo-min can move so freely between Krillin and the other off angles presented.
Interesting defensive DPS composition, PH and Profit. They do like playing uncommon things. I say uncommon in terms of, I'm still getting familiar to the eastern side of metas, where you don't usually see Ashe and Hanzo on the NA or the North American broadcast, but now the Echo to dominate the skies. We've seen this even on the APAC Pro-Am. I remember Top Dragon pulling this out specifically. But how does PH keep that distance away? Well, Dallas will have the speed, so they'll be catching up.
See, they will. PH on the signature. This is what he was hoping for all this time. That's absolutely brutal! Edison has no idea what hit him, but now he's been put on notice. And the information has been acquired, Lemon. Oh, so I am going to be having to deal with one of these.
Yeah, Profit on this Echo, this is just a tank buster. So much burst comes out of Echo. As Profit is only channeling that damage onto Hanbin. As Dallas Fuel try to take shelter, they speed through the left side. Profit respecting that, just chunking them down and not engaging. Seoul Dynasty all about that poke. Honestly, surprised that they don't even just have a Zen for how much they want to do this. But Seoul Dynasty approaching to try and contest. Void not letting this cart go any further. Dallas Fuel have the top left side. Be careful of Edison. He's in a prime position, and so is MCD. Void not getting enough support with the double flex. We'll head back towards the end of point A as Fuel sail away.
Yeah, Sparkle creating a distraction there in the backline. Prophet does not want to take that 1v1. Echo against Tracer rarely will go the way of the Echo. She's got such a wide hitbox with pulse pistols to take advantage of. And Hanbin forced to actually use an Nemesis form early due to a well-placed headshot. Oh, flying away.
Yeah, the Tracer is the counter to the Widow. And it's going to make you wonder when PH is going to swap, because this is... Point B is a little tough. If you can keep that top window position, that's where PH can justify keeping on the Widow, but Dallas Fuel are still hunting and owning this high ground. PH is so far back. That will be a point A cap for Dallas Fuel, but my worry is, what momentum do they bring into point B? They already own about half this area, and Seoul Dynasty are getting pushed back and staggered. They don't have Krillin.
And Hanbin having to use that Nemesis form for defensive measures as well to block their way out of this does mean that moving forward, it's going to be much harder, especially without the speed boost of Bliss. Dallas Fuel are going to be forced to take a more reserved position for a while, with the exception of Sparkle, who can, of course, make moves by himself. Good scouting here from Edison is going to allow Sparkle to potentially stage a dive, but will be revealed by PH's infra sites right here. Just to play the cover instead.
Now it's the tank duel between Hanbin and Void. You have the Annihilation first and the Ant Matrix. Depends if Dallas Fuel can get the better corner positioning. More exposure to this Ant Matrix. You got Bliss, who likes to escort these DPS into these off-angle positions. Sparkle goes to harass PH and Prophet. And Krillin eats a headshot from Edison. The frontline duel from Dallas Fuel is working out as Sparkle creates such a good distraction. Finally gets punished. But Sparkle took so much time away. Seoul Dynasty invest the Annihilation, but you don't have the Pro Brothers to assist. With Seoul Dynasty not making much headway.
Yeah, Prophet and Lee Soo-min continuously getting outplayed on this off-angle by Sparkle, who doesn't require nearly as many resources to stay alive as a Hanzo would in that duel. Now, with a pulse bomb in hand, Dallas Fuel are setting a blistering pace here through Shambali Monastery. Void might have to once again be the bulwark in the way. That's an early Kitsune rush, but it brings Void out.
The retake from Seoul. The Kitsune rush helps Void win the tank duel. Sound barrier from Bliss came in too late. And the poke of Dallas Fuel just doesn't have the space to thrive without Hanbin. What a retake from Seoul Dynasty. A good call from the backline to pop the Nano and Kitsune rush to win the frontline duel. That's exactly what they needed to do for point B.
Room for staggers potentially as well, as Prophet took out MCD while he ran, running them down the cavalry charge. Dallas Fuel now. Swap Sparkle over onto the Genji. Maybe more easily able to take a duel against the Hanzo using that deflect to buy openings in the defense and find cracks in the armor of the Seoul Dynasty. But Void is an unmoving plinth, a pedestal of pain. If Krillin can only survive to keep him alive, which has been a problem thus far for the Seoul Dynasty, but one that they'll be able to address with the great geography and the cover that this last area gives.
Yeah, this choke point is so good for Dragon Strikes. Prophet is holding on for the full commitment of the Dallas Fuel to either isolate or even get a pick as he throws it right behind Hanbin, who might be stuck in this fight. Behind them, for some reason, is Sparkle and Bliss, the best friends for life. If Sparkle's on Mei or Genji, Bliss has his back and will even give his life for him. Meanwhile, in the front line, Seoul Dynasty, unaffected by that Dragon Strike, or I should say Dallas Fuel unaffected by the Dragon Strike. Ant Matrix from MCD. They're getting antied though by Krillin, and the Annihilation from Seoul Dynasty to force them off. As the Dragon Strike from Edison created the space between the two, the opponents clash again. 90 seconds for the Dallas Fuel to get point B, and it's not starting their way with the DPS difference. A good sleep. It's Hanbin, and he's finished off by Void.
Oh, Dallas Fuel are working with narrow openings here. I mean, they're trying to split the attention of Seoul Dynasty by having that two-person flank of Bliss and Sparkle get on top of Krillin. This opens up a chance to try and kill Void, but Edison simply isn't able to land the shots to try and burst him down. Hanbin doesn't have the proper cooldowns ready. And now...
Void is winning the tank duels, and that's what's important to notice, is that's the biggest difference. Void is getting so much support, that's why you play the double flex. It's all about the tank diff. You don't have the speed, but you don't need it at this section of the map. It's about holding your ground. Nano and Kitsune Rush, Void has won this again. Sparkle finds his way in the back. The assassination, the early one that you needed from this Genji to deliver. And now hones his sights onto the back line. Krillin knows he doesn't have time to think. He nanos Void, goes forward. Hanbin with the annihilation is winning that over Void. Kitsune Rush never popped by Lee Soo-min. This is just too little too late. Dallas Fuel have souls backs against the wall, but the Bob is critical to contest the cart for a few more seconds. You even get the Suzu out there, but who is next? Void is too far back to contest. 0.05 meters. Dallas Fuel are fine. Lee Soo-min was too late to the call.
Yeah, Lee Soo-min definitely too late. They should have put it all into Void, but instead they hedged their bets and allowed Void to try and make a push unassisted, having to go too deep. And when moving in onto those squishy targets, Hanbin was able to weave in behind and hit the punches that could not be blocked onto the posterior. However, this is far from an easy angle to try and take now. Seoul Dynasty did get their full completion, and there's only a minute here for Dallas Fuel to work with as they look to try and get value out of this blade, which is likely going to be supplemented with a sound barrier.
This has to be the fight for Dallas Fuel. They're using all their ults here. The blade not used with the barrier as you might have thought. Sparkle got the kills. 5 versus 3. Seoul head back to the spawn. Prophet has to be careful. Sparkle approaching, decides to respect it, drop down to half HP. Dragon Strike 2 for Edison to lock up a side.
Krillin, if they can get access to this nano boost for the annihilation, it would be absolutely brutal. Hanbin's already used the Nemesis form here, so his defensive capacity is severely neutered. Void places his feet on terra firma with the car lemon.
Bliss, sound barrier. This is the push for Dallas Fuel. 30 seconds left. They got the space, but they're heading towards the backline of Seoul Dynasty. They're ignoring Void, and he shall not be ignored. The annihilation only wins against Hanbin, but the damage has been done to the teammates of Void. No DPS, no supports, no problem for the Dallas Fuel. It's a 12-second advantage, though, which is negligible in terms of fight scopes, but it will determine who has to set the win condition. Seoul Dynasty attack first, and it's match point for Dallas Fuel. All the weight rests on the shoulders of the Seoul Dynasty.
Excellent ult tracking there from the Dallas Fuel, realizing, hey, the way we lose this, right? It's a nano annihilation. What do we do to mitigate that annihilation? We make Void sit on cart. They push the cart to the precipice of victory, and then Void has to just stick himself to it when he really wants to be out there pummeling with the nano, using the annihilation to run down the enemies. Instead, Dallas Fuel, they spread out. They use the speed boost to get into these positions that Seoul Dynasty cannot match without speed, without the mobility that the Genji brings to the table, and they take a bunch of 1v1s and mechanically outplay in every single one of them, leaving Void alone in a 1 versus 4 that simply cannot be sustained when the annihilation runs out so quickly with no one in the radius. Excellent fight planning from Dallas Fuel, and this is the kind of thing that we expected from a reigning championship team that we haven't got thus far, and finally that spark has lit up the fuel dump.
And we talked about the Seoul Dynasty, this being their strongest map. They won against the Hangzhou Spark, a top 3 team. Seoul Dynasty took so many minutes away on their point B defense. They got rolled at A. Seoul Dynasty lost half their time bank on attack, just being spawn held by Dallas Fuel, who are running the same composition, but in a different way. They don't have Sparkle posted up at the spawn room doors like they did before. They just are going to contest this corner. This is going to be stronger for the defense overall as Hanbin patrols the left door, not wanting these DPS to creep through and get a random headshot. Good scouting from Dallas Fuel. Sparkle dropped down to like 1 HP, and you can't be losing anyone early for Dallas Fuel, especially when you're waiting for the rush pounce. Dallas Fuel are waiting for the call from Bliss or Sparkle, and Void is posted up. Sparkle is just looking for headshots. I'm waiting for Sparkle to maybe Maywall off Void, as Seoul Dynasty are taking damage but haven't fallen yet.
Remember, when it comes to fights on the cart, Dallas Fuel are far better positioned for that, using the Mei. Lee Soo-min attempting to bait away will get themselves a health pack, but also a punch to the bottom.
And that's a good punch to the bottom to start off this fight. Looks like Seoul Dynasty in overtime still have Void up, but he's so far extended. You have to play an LOS of Krillin. That is your only healer. Sparkle protecting himself. Dallas Fuel playing off the Ant Matrix. Void playing cover well, survives through, but you can't say the same about the support line. What is gonna heal you, Void? Nobody! The Seoul Dynasty failed to make a point A cap happen with the 1 minute they have. This is a winnable situation for the Dallas Fuel, but not too much extra time to do it.
My healing brother in Christ, MCD, currently sits at 22,403 healing.
Oh.
Unbelievable. Hanbin's taking a lot of damage, yes, but MCD is there to pick up the pieces. What a carry performance from MCD on that flex support to make sure that Hanbin is able to try and take these fights, because a lot of the responsibility is falling upon him. Bliss is playing a far more off-angle style alongside Sparkle, creating a 3-2 split where MCD has to make sure that both Hanbin and Edison are his responsibility. Seoul Dynasty, though, they still know their win conditions here. They can hold in the same place and they will win this map. Only 12 more seconds for Dallas Fuel. Surely Seoul Dynasty here pick up a team comp that would be able to fight on the cart in these close quarters, but no, they still trust in this double sniper.
I do just want to bring back that highlight of MCD. The fact that Blizz can just focus on escorting Sparkle around and whatever shenanigans being on the flank all the time, and MCD has to solo heal Hanbin against the double flex support. That is a huge performance from MCD, and honestly my vote for player of the match, although I might get outvoted by other people. But that is now the final push for the Dallas Fuel. Can they get the clean sweep and get to that box of victory that sits at the corner of point A? We return to the Echo composition of Seoul Dynasty. It's all about the poke, with Dallas Fuel approaching on the left side. Void trying to keep them at bay as Prophet and PH try to hose them down. That's a 3-man ante from Krillin. Dallas Fuel hiding back to the hallway. Sparkle creates a distraction, and Dallas Fuel actually have Edison slept, I believe, but Hanbin protected him, and Edison woken up.
Woken up by the Ravenous Vortex. That's going to be an impact with an That's two that might get antes here. Edison and MCD will survive, however, and it also doesn't require the immortality field now, as PH is going to be feeling the pressure.
Seoul Dynasty giving up that high ground, heading back towards the other corner. Suzu used just in case that Vortex would have lined up a shot for Edison. Dallas Fuel, 10 seconds left and one fight to go with no ults to do it, except maybe a Ant Matrix, but Seoul Dynasty will have the Nano first, and this can help Void win the tank duel better than he did against Hanbin on the last point A encounter. It is overtime. It's do or die. Dallas Fuel, they do it again. They ignore Void. They go after the back line of Seoul Dynasty as Void gets nanoed, tries to chase down Edison and Sparkle, who have so much mobility. MCD can't dodge. He lays the Ant Matrix that nobody can use, and Seoul Dynasty have clutched up at the finish line, and Void gets the MTD. Seoul Dynasty takes Shambali.
I'm going to need you to clarify if this one's correct, Lemon, but all according to Kakaku, all according to the plan, Krillin playing that back angle, knowing that Hanbin had to cover so much distance to even vaguely threaten him. And we saw Lee Soo-min playing the off angle to the right, Prophet playing the off angle to the left. It was all about making sure that Sparkle's pathing onto Krillin would be interrupted, that he'd have to take a fight, because they had to keep that Ana alive, keep that Nano alive, and keep the Dream alive. And that's exactly what Seoul Dynasty have done here on Shambali Monastery in Map 3. They will not allow their fans in this stadium to walk away without a singular map in their hands. Seoul Dynasty are clinging to the throne.
Dynasty vibes are up. You saw that the smiles are back on their faces. That was one of their best maps and their best showing of this series. It was all about the Ramatras avoiding each other and who could pounce on the back line the quickest. Seoul Dynasty live for now, but after this break, we'll find out if we go to Game 5 or not. Seoul Dynasty are on their last leg and have pushed Dallas Fuel to the brink after a close overtime Shambali. Seoul Dynasty take that one, and we go to a push map next, where just looking at the stats, Dallas Fuel haven't played Esports, the next one coming up, but the Seoul Dynasty have, and they lost it. But it was close against the Spark.
It was close against the Spark. Profit almost brought it over the finish line with consistent pulse bombs against Monk, trying to get rid of that Ana early, but unfortunately, in the end, losing out to the consistent pressure of the shy Sombra, who was hitting some fatty MPs. However, it could be an entirely different dynamic here. We know that these teams are not quite as keen on playing the Sombra, so maybe they won't be playing such an uneven match this time around. However, as it stands, Shambali Monastery, Seoul Dynasty are Shambali Monastery specialists, as it currently stands. And they might need to expand their winning hero pool by 1 to Esperanza.
I like the frog crying. I don't know what that says, but I don't imagine it's good. As we all wait to see how this next map is going to go. The Seoul Dynasty. We're lucky enough to get one of their strongest maps of Shambali. But Esperanza currently 0-1. But looking strong, and it was off of the Junker Queen from Void, who is going to be subbed back in, or, well, he's going to remain in, I should say, which, it depend on him. He's been a reliable tank for them thus far. And PH is a funny guy. He plays a lot of Soldier, and I say a lot as in more than anyone else on a couple of maps, including even a showing on Shambali. We'll see if the Soldier makes an appearance again. Just the high mobility has been nice. He's been showing everything from Sojourn to Soldier to Ash, just something to get rid of Dive or something to get rid of Tracers off his back.
I don't care. If it's not Sombra, I will play it. Is the tactic for PH as we return into the studio. Of course, we are split into our Dallas Fuel and Seoul Dynasty camps of fans here. An old Seoul Dynasty jersey. I did quite like those. I do wish they had a little bit more prominence of the old Tiger logo. I do think the Seoul Dynasty's Tiger is one of the best logos in the league, alongside, of course, the Houston Outlaws Buffalo. I'm not sure. Wildebeest, whatever the two pistols form into. Here's a quick look at the stats of the Ramatras on Shambali Monastery.
Yeah, this has been the big conversation throughout this series, where we talked about Void not getting as much assistance due to not having a Lucio. But on certain maps where you don't need to have much mobility, like that Point B Shambali, that's where Void and the double flex support of the Seoul Dynasty vanquished. They were able to nano Void and Kitsune Rush, Suzu the team. That's where Void and friends thrive, when they don't have to move. But on maps where there's a lot of rotations, like a push map, where there's a lot of running around, I'm favoring the Dallas Fuel and going back to the Lucio composition. If we have a Junker Queen matchup, as I'm maybe expecting, you gotta favor the Dallas Fuel. That's been one of their strongest compositions.
Yeah, Dallas Fuel, a lot more precise with their rotations. Great fight planning around mobility, whereas, like you said, the fight planning for Seoul Dynasty often relies on, we're going to stay in one place and hope that they come to Void and let Void beat them to death. that was the plan on Shambali Monastery 2 days in a row, and you know what? Both times it worked. We head over to push. Like you said, it's going to be mobile, it's going to be fast, it's going to be furious. And that's where the Fuel are at their best, moving around, getting onto those backlines, utilizing speed, power, and maneuverability, where Bliss is able to really excel on the Lucio. But
Krillin will play it too.
Played in tandem.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that Krillin. I mean, he played it last time they were on Esperanza, but how comfortable are they? If they play so much flex support, can the Seoul Dynasty keep up in those rotations? It's all about Krillin making those calls, and Bliss, I think, has been fantastic on the Lucio. I think the only criticism we really had of the Seoul Dynasty, despite Oasis being so close, was that PH just kept jumping away from the team on Sojourn. And despite that, it was almost a 100-0 comeback by the Seoul Dynasty on City Center.
There were sparks of brilliance, but can they be brought up into a roaring fire? That's a lot of looking seemingly raw fish on the table. Just some hard sashimi. roaring flame and roar
Russian.
themselves from the fans. Wow.
I want those pipes. How do you yell like that? I could not. I need those vocal cords, man. Teach me.
It's passion. Ignited fresh. A run out here from the sim. Sparkle. Swapping over, of course, onto the Tracer, but this does mean that there's going to be advanced positioning here for Dallas Fuel, which is potentially going to be harder to break for Seoul Dynasty, as Hunbin's going to get themselves a nice little stand up here on the pot plant to give a good overview of the battle and where to try and put this carnage.
Ooh, it is a ring around the rosy kind of situation where there is that availability of rotating to the right side. You got this Tracer versus Genji. Important for the Genji to maybe have some assistance of the Lucio to rotate into better positions when you don't have as much mobility as a Tracer, and dash resets important, and it requires an elimination for that to happen. So far, no deaths, despite Dallas Fuel having that forward position, as you mentioned. Void and Hanbin pulling themselves in. No big advantage that I'm seeing, despite maybe a 20% Kitsune rush for Lee Soo-min over MCD, who's quickly catching up. Now you got the Tracer harassing Prophet. Falls back, knows that he might lose that duel against Sparkle, so plays that smartly. You got the shout from Dallas Fuel. Hanbin a little bit low. Suzu used by MCD as Fuel slowly but surely losing this fight. Sparkle makes his way to the back line, but not before the front falls of the Dallas Fuel as the first fight goes to the Seoul Dynasty.
And you can really see where the target focus of these two teams is given. What in the world? Did Sparkle just stick a wall and Prophet ran into it? Not entirely sure. The target focus definitely feels like Seoul Dynasty are putting a lot more damage into Hanbin, and that's what you can bring to the table with the Genji, right? Like, you've got some excellent poke that doesn't suffer from damage fall off against the large hitbox of a Junker Queen that can do a fair amount, and when she gets in close, those Shuriken fans will also start to chunk through the health bar.
Void has used Shout. He's completely isolated. Kitsune Rush from Lee Soo-min is enough to save Void in this situation, who's baiting them into a rampage. Hit 3. Suzu from MCD saves the backline. Edison not so lucky. Seoul Dynasty pounce on their prey, as it'll be back-to-back fights for them, extending that 17-meter lead.
The lead will be extended, but it was 2 ultimates used by Seoul. MCD responded to the rampage using a Suzu, but still Edison, left out to dry in a separate position, was unable to be afflicted with that, and so taken down by the anti-heal. Krillin going to be in charge of the next fight, in tandem with Prophet, of course. We didn't see the combination of the blade and the sound barrier last time around, but surely the sound barrier needs to be used here to rebuff the Dallas Fuel armory, which has been accrued.
Or to survive the rampage, but it's a momentum push from Seoul, as Hanbin just has to wait for that to dwindle away. Edison, with the Kitsune Rush, is blasting away. Seoul Dynasty fire back with their own blade. Overclock countered by the Soundbear Kitsune Rush. All the ultimates on the table. It's a big fight for Seoul Dynasty to win, as they're up by 2, and Dallas Fuel haven't put a dent into the Seoul Dynasty thus far. And you gotta worry. Is a reverse sweep in the cards with how good Seoul Dynasty look?
Oh, Dallas Fuel started off the day all smiles, but they would certainly be wiped off their faces if Seoul Dynasty managed to find that elusive reverse sweep. Hanbin simply could not find a rampage to have in that fight. The self-healing would have been so good, Lemon. Now coming
Seoul
in from the
Dynasty,
top.
yeah. Oh, rampage. Oh, pulling one target in. Hanbin hesitates. Sparkle is ready for the call. Shout used. Void responds. Seoul Dynasty falling back as far as they can with PH dead. This is not a fight Seoul can take, and they're low. And Dallas Fuel are chasing. What more can they get? Good rotations. Seoul Dynasty only lose 2. And maybe more, actually. Seoul Dynasty could not get away. And Dallas Fuel have a good showing now.
And Krillin dying late as well means that they are going to be spawning away from the forward spawn that was earned previously by the Seoul Dynasty, Lemon. That might mess with the overall tempo here of the Seoul Dynasty, as Lee Soo-min looks to find another place to try and put down this Kitsune Rush. And Sparkle, of course, can try and put them to bed.
Rampage, though. I'm worried about this rampage. If Seoul Dynasty stay hidden in this closet, Hanbin has the rampage. You're already at 5 versus 4. You might not even need the ultimate, especially when you're winning the tank duel. Void barely kept alive as he rampages in half HP to finish off Hanbin, as Sparkle's blade diminished through the anti-heal of the Junker Queen ultimate. Seoul Dynasty just pushed back, and Dallas 2 also were pushing this entire time, so they'll have forward spawn. If Dallas 2 win this next fight, they're gonna take the lead.
Okay, there's the push. For a second, I thought they were going to not bother finishing that one off. This does give them a forward spawn, Lemon. And that's going to be increasingly important as you try and play a lesser manned battle. Of course, Dallas Fuel took multiple casualties in the previous battle and have to go back up to 5 players. And Hanbin is still holding on to this rampage, just making sure that Lee Soo-min never wants to use for Suzu.
Yeah, it was good initiative from Seoul Dynasty last fight where they rampaged early. Hanbin has the rally available. Where is the rampage? Seoul Dynasty don't have a tank, so Dallas Fuel want to conserve ultimates because they got a long road to get back to those forward spawns and to win the fight afterwards. The Sparkle looks clean with the Genji, and you love to see him on one of his best heroes thriving in this meta.
Yeah, Sparkle is definitely moisturized and in his lane, exactly where he wants to be at this moment. Remember that approaching the Dallas Fuel control here is going to be incredibly dangerous against the overclock that Edison has in the back of his hand. Can try and keep them at bay until the lead is gained, and there it is for Dallas Fuel. Now they can just try and play an objective game.
Ooh, overclock. Oh, almost get that final shot onto PH. It's Overclock City. Both teams playing defensively, not taking any risks, not jumping in. Forward spawn for Dallas Fuel. Rampage again from Hanbin. I don't know how many times we're gonna say it. He's got the speed. He's got the shout, the barrier. Response from Krillin. Later sound barrier will favor Seoul. At the later stages of this fight, Rampage through a few. It is Suzu by Lee Soo-min. Hanbin puts himself in a dangerous position, but he's got the follow-up of the Army of the Fuel as they march on forward, taking the lead, getting even further.
The Army of the Fuel stands triumphant in this case. Even more distance, even more chances to try and put down the rebellion that was the Seoul Dynasty. Reverse sweep hopes. 3.5 minutes remain as you cast your eyes to the top of the screen. Sparkle ready to once again command respect with his blade. It's been getting so much value despite not having too much in the terms of amplification behind it. It's the raw mechanics that Seoul Dynasty have found confounding again and again.
He almost got a pull in the void, which could have been the Dragon Blade call. Seoul Dynasty, ideally you want to win this fight without having to use ultimates like this Rampage so that you can just play the neutral fight, but Dragon Blade towards PH, who jumps to the loving arms of Suzu, which only buys time. PH falls as the Rampage of Void makes a bigger dent into the Fuel, who even invests the rally despite not having Bliss and Sparkle in this engagement. Fuel, what more than the 108 meters that they got, but Seoul Dynasty are healed back up to full, and Fuel's brawl is starting to dwindle. Lee Soo-min with the Kitsune rush. Fuel were already leaving this fight. I don't agree with this call.
Not the ideal, Lemon. Not the ideal at all. Dallas Fuel, they were scarfing, and now they can actually intercept the bot before it even gets out of his area.
Like, you should have just, if you're going to commit the Kitsune rush, chase them down, whatever it takes. Seoul Dynasty, we're focused on the cards. At least they're winning this fight and generating more as PH removes the heads of the Fuel. Seoul Dynasty are only down about 44 meters with 2 minutes left. It is possible, but it's going to take all the efforts.
Hanbin, once again, with a Rampage. See if we let this one age like fine wine. Fermented the last one into something that you need ID in order to actually look at. Seoul Dynasty have plenty of tools in their own chest as well. Prophet's blades thus far nowhere near as effective as Sparkle's, but it's time to change that. You need it for the reverse sweep.
Oh, the shout used from Void. PH thought he was safe on this high ground. Dallas Fuel climb up. Oh, and they even force the barrier out of Krillin. If you're Fuel, you can just back away from this. You actually steal the bot from them. Makes Soul's journey even longer and more painful. This Prophet needs to live here. The Dragon Blade, important win condition behind him. It is a Joker Queen with Rally. Hanbin, Void clash together. Suzu only available for Soul to cleanse this. Soundbear from Bliss buys them health and time. And it's enough for the Dallas Fuel to shut down the chances of Soul coming back with the 1 minute they have. This will be almost impossible.
Sparkle on 13 final blows right now, deadlifting the team, and it could get even better here. With a blade in hand for Prophet, it's only 4 final blows. It's been ignominious for what some people would call the go up against the new rich that is Sparkle on the Genji.
Okay, Kitsune Rush right out the gates. That'll tell you to get off my lawn. Dallas Fuel, though, stepping right back up. You got the rally, the blade, and Soul cowering back home, calling for Mama. 126 meters, full cap in the sights of the Dallas Fuel, who got more on the menu. for the Seoul Dynasty. An overclock is popped. Edison wants to shut them up for good. 10 seconds left. The Seoul Dynasty with respawn advantage. And PH is going to find that out the hard way. 5-4 as Dallas Fuel have Seoul cornered, quite literally, as Edison jumps in, follows up behind Sparkle. Dallas Fuel are insane. Profit, though, brings out the blade and punishes the Fuel's overextension, as Seoul will live, but it's overtime, and you're down so much.
The blade had to be used, and finally Profit finds a means to use it. But now all the weight of Seoul Dynasty's reverse sweep rests on the shoulders of Krillin, the side character. Close to protagonist status, maybe here can finally claim it as Void builds up towards the rampage. Dallas Fuel simply needs to pick their moment and troll this bot to keep Seoul Dynasty on their toes.
Seoul Dynasty have to go all the way. Ideally, not needing to use ultimates here. Be good for them. But you gotta do what it takes, and Profit chunk down a headshot from Edison. He delivers again, a rampage from Void. Hits 2 of the Dallas Fuel. Krillin with the sound beer to keep the brawl kicking for the Seoul Dynasty as they head to the neutral point. And they keep on trucking. PH, pick on Edison. That's a good start. Overclock as Dallas Fuel are low. You dodge the rampage, but you can't dodge the shield bash. Seoul Dynasty still have members living as Dallas Fuel chase them. They're in their shadows. They're in their heads. The rally begins. The army of the Fuel are here. And Seoul Dynasty, the backs against the wall. Dallas Fuel live in their minds rent-free as the Seoul Dynasty are peeled one by one off the cart. And overtime dwindles, and the Dallas Fuel will take their second win in the APAC qualifier.
And Sparkle finally gets his day. 19 final blows out of 37. That is a deadlift right there from the boy on the Genji, on his signature hero, up against Profit, one of the greatest of all times, and famed for the Genji as well as for Tracer, doing 30% more damage and doing 4 times as many in terms of final blows. An unbelievable performance from this DPS monstrosity.
Dallas Fuel climb 2-3. Aw, hugs from Sparkle to Profit. A lot of respect between these two teams. Dallas Fuel, I felt maybe a tinge of disrespect with Dallas Fuel like touching the spider room doors and ulting. Usually you'd want to save your ults for retakes, but Dallas Fuel, that's the type of confidence they have. Your winners will be the Dallas Fuel, like I said, who go 2-3, who solidify themselves in 4th place, as Seoul Dynasty will have to fight against Shanghai on who will be last place. But Shanghai's next match is against the Guangzhou Charge, which you'll expect Seoul and Shanghai to be in the pits, but it's all about how you climb back up.
It's the climb out of Tartarus, which is often making the best story. Dallas Fuel moving to Korea this year. The organization made the choice. We will release them from Texas in order to keep our core, to keep Sparkle, to keep Edison, to keep Hanbin. These legendary players. They leveraged their position and their prestige to take themselves back to the homeland, to play in front of the fans, and also play at home during our mid-season madness, which is going to be taking place in Korea. Here's our player of the match, Edison.
Oh yeah, this was the matchup that I was most looking forward to seeing. Edison versus PH, which struggled on the Sombras, but thrive and shine on the Hanzos, where it was actually the Sojourns today on Oasis that dueled off Edison versus PH. I thought it was fairly close, but then Hanzo from Edison on Blizzard World, you just had these jumping headshots that were crazy. Here are the highlights of Oasis, where it was, like I said, very close between PH and Edison. I think PH coming alive at the end of City Center is what made that 0 to almost 100 comeback from Seoul Dynasty happen. But Edison's headshot counts on Blizzard World, I think, is what allowed Dallas Fuel to full hold.
Yeah, the headshots from Edison just decided Blizzard World. There's no doubt in my mind about it, Lemon. And to be honest, Edison is kind of the hallmark of Dallas Fuel kind of changing gears, shifting their phase here in competition, where they've moved on from trying to make Hanbin into the Winston player. Fearless, he ain't. And you know what? That's okay. Hanbin never had to learn the Winston. He was on a team with Fearless. If you learned Winston, that would be a profound waste of your time. And
And
Dallas
Diva's
Fuel,
meta
yeah,
right now, so.
they finally started to play their own style, leaning into the Junker Queen, leaning into the Ramatra and the Diva, things that Hunbin's really good at. And playing their own game has rewarded Dallas Fuel with even more wins.
And I mean, you look at Seoul Dynasty, and they didn't play as much Belos Rhea in these last two matches, who is their main tank player. And this is the rise of off-tanks, where you expected out the gates Dallas Fuel to be stronger in this off-tank meta, but it's taken adjustments, right, to go and travel to APAC just to be in this region with the different playstyles, how much more aggressive and mechanically strong APAC teams are. But Edison showing up where in the championship, it was all about the Reaper and playing around Edison's hero pool. But now that he's found his strength or has gone back to his strength of Hanzo, Dallas Fuel just looks so much better.
Check out that ratio of critical hits to final blows as well. That will give you a great example of how Edison is not using this Hanzo to really farm tanks as much. Otherwise, the critical hits would be far higher compared to the final blows, because you obviously get to farm multiple critical hits on those huge tank headboxes. But Edison instead, he's taking the DPS duels and consistently winning them, keeping PH on his toes, keeping Profit honest, and also making sure that Bliss wasn't able to freely escort around that off angle, which was incredibly important for making sure that you had that secure flank, allowing MCD to put out huge numbers as a healer.
And Dallas Fuel, they win against Shanghai, they win against Seoul Dynasty, or sort of at the bottom two teams. But can Dallas Fuel take down the top two, the top three? Or will Dallas Fuel be stuck in the middle? We'll go to the stage now to hear from an interview from Sparkle.
정말 많은 분들이 지켜봐 주시는 가운데 댈러스 퓨어가 서울 다이너스티의 빅매치 함께하고 오셨습니다. 결국 3대 1로 댈러스 퓨어이 승리를 가져가게 되었는데요.
The Dallas Fuel won against the Seoul Dynasty 3-1. So the player of the match today was Edison, but we have Sparkle on the stage to have an interview.
안녕하세요. 댈러스 퓨어에서 DPS를 맡고 있는 스파클 김영환입니다.
Hello, I'm Sparkle Kim Young-han. I'm DPS for the Dallas Fuel.
인터뷰를 하면서 이렇게 무슨 팀의 무슨 선수입니다라고 자기소개를 한 그런 선수가 처음이라서 오늘
Well, this is the first time that actually a player introduced himself as the DPS for which team.
제가 에디슨 형이 한조 세레모니를 했는데 제가
So
한조의 용이
when we
되어서
walked
저희
in,
팀원들을
we
쓸어버리고
had a performance about the Hanzo Dragon, and it was about celebrating Edison on his POTM yesterday.
아니요 그냥 갑자기 저보고 하라 하는 것 같아가지고
Well, to be honest, Edison just told me to do it, so I just did it.
네, 제가 잠깐 스파클 선수께 여쭤봤는데 오늘 혹시 준비해 주신 세레모니가 있을까요?라고 여쭤봤는데 오늘은 아니다.
So did you prepare for a ceremony for the interview today? And he did say no before the interview. So, but do you have anything hidden?
오늘 아니에요.
No, not today. Well, I'm not the POTM. Why should I even do a
네,
celebration?
그럴 듯한 이유가 있는데요, 여러분. 오늘은 아니다라고
Ah,
말씀해 주셔서
fair reason.
기회에 더 좋은 세레모니 한번
Well, maybe next
기대해
time when
볼
you're a
만할 것
POTM,
같은데요.
we'll expect
어제
a performance from you.
댈러스 퓨어의 분위기가 완전히 전환이 됐다고 느껴졌어요.
So yesterday was arguably the turning point for the Dallas Fuel. How's the atmosphere down there?
저희가 이제 시즌 초창기 때 약간 좀 미끄러졌었는데
Early in the season, we were really struggling.
까지 연습해가지고 그 보여주는 그런 팀이었는데
And
너무 이제
usually
저희가
the Dallas
무타에
Fuel that we're used to
따라가는
is the
그런
team
소양이
that
가지고
does
이제 저희가
our
잘하는
style
걸
of play
위해서자
rather than
이제
trailing
좋은
what other
분위기가 돼서
teams
좋은
do. But we just found out that we were trying to just imitate what other teams were doing rather than playing to our own strengths. So that's I think what we struggled.
적응을 해서 정말 말씀해 주신 대로 한계치까지 이 자기의 경기력 그리고 그 영웅 이해도를 끌어올리는 것이 맞다고
But looking at your recent games, I think you do have finally found that Dallas style of play.
굉장히 뛰어난 모습을 많이 보여주셨습니다.
And also, individually, I think
그런
your
것 같아요.
mechanics
다
are looking sharper
폼이
than
오르는 것
earlier in
같습니다.
the season.
맞아요.
What do you think about that?
선수도 혼자서
Yeah, I mean,
경기도
definitely. I think
상대
individual
암살을
performances
정말
were
많이 하는 모습도
also
보여주시고
getting a lot
트레이서로도
better.
좋은 모습 많이 보여주셨는데 우리 댈러스 퓨어는 혹시 개개인의 판단을 이 팀적인 운영보다 조금 더 중요하게 생각하는
Is
편인가요?
Dallas Fuel a team that puts more importance
이제
in
순간순간적인
individual
판단을
decision
좀더
making rather than team
중요시하지만
decisions?
그래도 이제 단계를 밟아가는 운영도 중요하다고 생각하기 때문에 천천히 하는 것 같아요.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both because we also do individual decisions, but also we also kind of take time a little bit to kind of sum up our ideas together and make a team move.
왜냐면 양 팀의 탱커 선수 모두 다 정커킨에 정말 잘한다라고 소문이 난 선수들이었는데 그 탱커 선수를 지원하기 위해 어떤 노력이
Well,
있었을까요?
both teams were coming into this match were known for both having good Ramachas and good Junker Queens. What did you do as a team to support your tank?
오르거든요. 그래서 이제 저희가 맞춰주고
So usually when a tank player plays Junker Queen, they get really excited and they just want to go in. And so what we do is what we try to do best is like we try to support their aggressiveness as much as we can.
왜냐면 한빈이가 캐리하거든요.
So basically when Hanbin does what he wants to do, he carries. So we just try to help him do what he wants to do best.
도둑놈이 너무 많아서 아쉽네요.
So are you upset that you're not the POTM? Well, there's too many thieves, POTM thieves on our team, so whatever.
그냥 다들 으쌰으쌰하는 것 같아요.
So how do you kind of keep your morale up? Well, I guess it's also a team effort in that nobody blames each other. We try to cuddle each other, like say that it's going to be okay.
블리스 선수도 자유롭게 우리 형들에게 의견을 말하는
So Bliss is the youngest member of your team. What's Bliss's role in the team?
동생이기 때문에 좀 처음에 말을 좀 많이 하라고 계속 갈궜는데.
Well, I mean, he is the youngest member of the team, and he's kind of like the quiet one. But now that he's used to us, he's just he just bosses me around here and there. Now he's totally fine.
아마 다음 경기 이기면 하지 않을까라고 생각하네요.
Well, he actually has something prepared. Maybe next match when we win, he'll have something surprise for all of you.
퀄리파이어 스테이지 일정이 모두 끝이 났습니다. 사실상 이제 그렇게 매드 시즌까지 가는 관련이 많이는 없잖아요. 퀄리파이어가.
Well, so the qualifier performances isn't really pivotal in your actual survival or participation in the mid-season madness. But still, do you have any thoughts on your performances on the qualifiers as a whole? Well, I mean, I think I'm very sorry to the fans because this isn't the performance that you've been expecting, but we'll definitely improve and show better performances coming on. Thank you.
네, 이 다음으로는요. 오늘의 마지막 매치인 서울 임페리날과 광저우 차지의 빅매치가 준비되어 있습니다. 처음 맞붙는 두 팀인데요. 과연 어느 팀이 끝에 가서 웃게 될지 끝까지 함께 해주시기 바라면서 저는 다음에 다시 인사드리도록 하겠습니다. 지금까지 손혜민이었습니다. 여러분 고맙습니다.
All right, well, thank you, Unknown, for the interview with Sparkle. I think the big takeaway there was Bliss is a bully. I'm just kidding. But also the reoccurring trend with the Dallas Fuel of following the meta, but really going back to their strengths.
Yeah, returning to the Dallas Fuel style of play has definitely served them super well. Russia's never really been a trend follower. This goes all the way back to the Element Mystic days. I'm sure many people here remember the old Doomfist Sombra attempt at trying to counter the GOATs. It was one of the most legendary matchups in Korean competitive history to have your runaway classic GOATs, more meta slave style, versus the Element Mystic wild style of playing both Doomfist and Sombra. That was Sparkle and Doha at the time, and it was Hanbin who was actually playing Brig. And it always feels like teams under Rush, whether it's Element Mystic, the Paris Eternal, or now the Dallas Fuel, have played so much better when we just allow the Rush brainchild to be their style of play, because he often makes the best use of the players he has and their own hero pools rather than what's currently meta.
It was cool to see. I'm glad we got an interview from Sparkle because he just always brings that smile, like losing or winning. Sparkle is such this bright, positive person on the team and talks about how they're all trying to rob each other of player of the match. Bliss is up next. I know there was one person in the crowd who had the Bliss sign, and they're on their knees waiting for the player of the match from Bliss. I had my player of the match vote for MCD, you know, just to give love to the supports, because I thought MCD's performance was out of this world on the Baptiste, on Blizzard World, who got a 3K at some point. His Brig was fragging out on Oasis. All around, Dallas Fuel have highlight players that have had their moments to shine, whether it's Sparkle on the Dragon Blade. I was kind of criticizing his Genji at the start of the season just because how easily teams were able to punish and maneuver around it, but Sparkle found his secret sauce, I guess, of how to pull off his hero in such a difficult meta.
Yeah, like you said, Bliss became a lot more comfortable with the team and seems to have rolled into a kind of Sparkle management role. He's now Sparkle's agent, taking